Okay, with that, we will move back into a regular open session. And I believe that the only remaining discussion item tonight is any additional contract parameters. So we did, I think, make some good progress last night. Does anybody have any new items for discussion tonight?
So I have a couple. I think they're pretty quick and easy. Okay, so under the, shoot, where is it? It's under the written, it's the review. Where is the review? Performance evaluation. Okay, number 5. So in the past, I don't know that when the board has prepared a written review for public disclosure, whether that written evaluation was actually approved by the board. I think there's been some inconsistency possibly historically with regard to whether or not the written evaluation that was presented to the public was actually signed off by the board and approved by the board. So I would suggest that the word "and approve" could be added to where it says the board chair, let's see, wait a minute, that's the board chair. The board shall prepare and approve a written document. And here I think it says the board chair will prepare it. Somewhere in there, I think it would just be helpful to have the word "approved" by the board. Because what if you deliberate about this evaluation, or not deliberate, but you're in executive session, you're talking about the evaluation, and then the chair presents sort of a written summary. I think it would be important for the board to approve that. So putting that in there somewhere, and I'm trying to read
information to know what's the most common, and this is a particular detail I don't remember seeing out of some of the other contracts that I looked at. I don't have any on the face objection, Janet, to your suggestion.
I think it's just good practice. Again, it's a small point, but it just seems.
Thoughts on this? I guess I'm pleading maybe indifference towards leaning towards Janet's point of view on this one.
I would like the board to be able to have a chance to review it and approve it. I mean, that's part of our job. And I would like to, if we could, I was thinking it's the last sentence of that paragraph, maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it goes along and then it says the board chair shall prepare a written document for public disclosure. We could put the board chair shall prepare a written document and or also approved by the board, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Would allow the board to be a little bit more involved. Sure, I'll stop.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
So, question about, does that need to be in the contract at all is the first question. And second question is, what if we put the approval part in and the board, I'm just trying to think of process, and the board couldn't come to an agreement and the contract says you will provide these written feedback by a certain date, and if the board can't agree, then it can't be provided and we're in violation of the contract. So that seems concerning to me. I'd rather just do away with it.
I wonder if there's somewhere else in policy is there anywhere else in board policy that it talks about this provision, or could it potentially? I mean, I'm happy to have it be there as well. To your point, Jennifer, about not necessarily having to have it contractually obligated, but it should be a policy and a best practice.
Sarah?
Yes, Irv, please.
I was just going to say, in that paragraph, it already says what they're wanting. The board chair shall prepare a written document for public disclosure which accurately reflects. So it already, I'm not sure who brought that up, but it already says that. Again, I feel like these are out of fear. We could just take this thing completely apart and just have a contract with his name on it and everything else be in a working agreement.
There's some legal.
I mean, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't think any of us on the board are. But
No.
at what point do you stop this? That's my 2 cents.
Well, I believe it's good to have it in place because it is a contract, and that contract is supported by law. It's binding, and I think this is our moment that if we want to do any alterations, we really have to seize the moment. And I think Janet has brought up a good point that I would support.
Jennifer, did you have something you were going to say?
Yeah, I was talking while I was muted. I wanted to respond to Janet. When this has been a concern in the past, and during my recollection of my examination of documents, I think the only place that this reference to a written performance evaluation is in the contract. And so it is not any other place. So again, I wonder do we need it? Is it necessary? Is it something that we negotiate? I don't know, but I do see it could be problematic to say approve when, what if the board can't come up with 4 votes to approve something and we're against a deadline, and if we don't meet the feedback deadline, we're in violation of the contract. That's I wonder about that. I have no idea. It would be nice to have an attorney on the line.
Tom?
Yeah, I guess I see Jennifer's point. I mean, I suppose, if when the board chair prepares it and presents it to the public, I suppose if it doesn't accurately reflect it in another board member's opinion, that's a time to voice some dissent, maybe. Because I don't have a problem with the board voting on it and seeing it. I mean, it kind of makes sense. I think it's a good practice. But I can see how it can become a problem if everybody doesn't agree, and then it just becomes a problem. And sometimes you just have to defer to the chair, the person who elected as a chair, and a decision is made and you move forward. And if people have problems with it, they can voice their dissent in public, and we'll take it up next time we elect a board chair, I suppose. I mean, I don't know. That's my thought.
So I went ahead and looked up, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were done. I looked up the policy CBG for evaluation of the superintendent. And it says no later than the first day of July, the board will devote an executive session to an evaluation of the superintendent's performance. It's a long one, but it does say the superintendent's job performance will be evaluated formally and at least annually. The evaluation will be based on the administrative job description and the applicable standards of performance,
Okay.
board policy, and progress in attaining any goals for the year established by the superintendent and/or the board. Additional criteria for the evaluation, if any, will be developed at a public board meeting prior to conducting the evaluation. The superintendent will be notified of the additional criteria prior to the evaluation. The board's discussion and conferences with and about the superintendent and his or her performance will be an executive session unless the superintendent requested an open session.
Okay.
If the superintendent's performance is deemed to be unsatisfactory, the superintendent will be notified in writing of specific areas to be remedied and will be given an opportunity to correct these problems, blah, blah, blah. So I think the evaluation of the superintendent in our policy doesn't really have anything that has language about the board chair writing anything or summarizing. It doesn't have it anywhere in here. And I also looked up that in, that was under administration for the superintendent. I also looked up under governance, which is the board. And I couldn't find anything on here that says board evaluation of superintendent or any key words that would lead us to something of that nature. And I'm still looking because these words are so small, but or the letters.
So,
But
yeah,
I'm
thank you for
there-
looking that up, Shelley.
You're welcome.
I think in the interest of moving forward with the contract and keeping in mind Jennifer's point, I'd be willing to defer on the point, but hope that we could revisit this in our policies because I think it is important.
Right.
And so, you know, we
And-
can, go ahead, Lori.
No, go ahead, Janet. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, okay, I'm all done.
I'm sorry for that. I agree. I think this is another example of our policies and the contract and how important it is to get things lined up. And it's just another example. And I think it's important. I was going to ask to Tom, when in the past, when there has been an evaluation of the superintendent, did you type it up and present it to the board for them to review so they knew what was being presented? Did any of that go on? I mean, I know that you were part of being the chair, and I just was
No.
kind of curious.
No,
No?
I just followed past practice, and we did an
Okay.
executive session, and the board chair typed it up and read it. And it was,
Oh,
that's
okay.
that was past practice.
That was past press. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But you
Okay.
read that in public, though, Tom, remember? You
Yes.
read that summary in public? Yeah, I remember a couple times, yeah. I think it's, you know, to Janet's point, I think it's good practice to do that, honestly. I think that, you know, to have that in there, I don't know about contract, but I think that it is good practice. And it's nice to know what 7 people, you know, when you submit that information to the chair, it's nice to know what the chair summarized, and that way we're all aware of it, and that way we can stand, you know, are together and say, yeah, present it. That looks great. You know, if we keep that, I don't know.
Yeah. So I'm going to jump in here. We have Sarah and Steve on. Do you guys have any feedback for us on this? Is there anything that we need to know regarding this particular question?
Steve, are you? There he is. Hi.
Hey guys,
Hi.
Sarah and I really can't get involved in contract language. I'm sure you're using an attorney to review this language. So I would run it by your attorney. You're having a good conversation about policy versus contract.
Mhm.
And in general, I would say what you can keep in policy because you completely control policy is always better for the board. And again, this is general. I'm not giving you contract recommendations here, but generally what you can keep in policy, you have complete control over. What you put in a contract, once it's signed, obviously both parties have to agree to.
It's
So this
super-
conversation about evaluation language, because you have some of it in policy and you're trying to put some of it in your contract, you really need to settle with an attorney. And so you're having a very good conversation. And yes, we need to look at your policy. And when we set up your evaluation system with your new superintendent as part of the transition program, we're going to talk about exactly what you're talking about. and what your process is and what past practice has been and what best practices it is, and in terms of the board's role. So we'll work out a lot of what you're talking about. For now, I would say consult an attorney and go with their advice.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve.
You're welcome.
Quick question for Tom and Irv. Do you guys remember having that language put into the contract? Do you remember when that was added or anything, or why it was added in there or anything? You don't remember?
No, it's just always
I'm
been
just
there.
curious. It's just always been there. Oh, okay.
Yeah, as far as
Okay.
I know, I know that this topic came up about a
Mhm.
year ago.
It did.
Jennifer talked about, she was very familiar with the new OSBA process of evaluation. And I was
Yep.
really looking forward to using that process to revisit this topic.
Right.
And I don't
Yep.
know if this is really really is the time right now. I think we're into the weeds, I think.
Yeah,
I think the language there is fine. And I think, we can tighten up our internal process to fulfill the language. That I got misplaced the paper. Where'd it go here?
Yeah,
But-
that's fine. That's fine with
Okay.
me. That works. I think
Shelley,
Yeah.
Eric, go ahead.
Yeah.
I just wanted to address your question because you named me.
Thank you.
That language was never a problem because if you remember, all 7 of us read our evaluation out loud, right? So everybody on the board hears all of the other evaluations.
In
So when the
executive session.
chair, huh?
In executive session. Yeah, we do.
Yeah. So
Yep.
when the chair types up the report, it doesn't matter who it is. It reflects the overall judgment or evaluation of the board.
Yeah, I know. I was just wondering if you could remember historically why that language was put into the contract since it's not in our policy. Do you remember
No,
anything
that was
about
before.
that?
That was before my time.
Before your time. Okay. Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
just wondering. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Irv.
Thank you. All right, any other comments regarding the contract?
So I'm going to take an action to ask for an attorney review of that statement and whether or not we are recommended to just yank it out. Less is more has been our mantra, and this may fall into that category. But I'll get that feedback, and I will feed that through Tom when he gets the draft in the morning. I mean, I've got it drafted now, but I'll get this update and I'll feed that through, and we'll use that as our starting point for negotiation, if that's okay.
Yeah, I do. I have something that I wanted to ask. And Jonathan, I've discussed my issues on council. And so it sounds like for right now, we are using the same attorney until we review otherwise the contract. Is that my understanding?
When you say the same attorney, I'm referring to Lisa Freely, and I don't know what you mean
Yes,
by
and
this.
that's who I'm referring to. I'm trying to be, yeah. So she's still our attorney for the district.
She's one of many, yes.
And she was the only one available for this?
She was going to be the most available for this, which was going to require rapid fire turnaround.
Okay. Okay. I wanted to ask that because I know there's been discussions regarding Ms. Freely. So, okay.
Okay, any other questions about the contract? Wonderful. Okay, so at this point, the board has identified Tom to conduct the contract negotiations. So it's decided in a previous meeting in open session. And the board now needs to identify a starting salary point as an offer in the negotiation. So you've got your salary range. Where do you want to start in the range?
So we are, we're literally in a different spot than we were even when we set that salary range. I say that just on account of, we're probably looking at pretty sizable budget shortfall to contend with. That's not news to any of us. I personally recommend we start very near the entry of our range, if not at the entry.
Okay, so your range is 145 to 155. Do you want to start at 145? Feel free to give a thumbs up or a head nod if you're comfortable starting at 145. And Irv, I've unmuted you if you want to either verbally or
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
comfortable
Sarah,
with
I think, yes, 145.
Okay, thank you, Irv, and thank you, everyone. All right, Tom, you've got your marching orders. With that, I think we've accomplished everything that we set out to accomplish. And so Tom, feel free to reach out to the candidate at any point. I know it's very late. You can do so in the morning if you'd like. And just wonderful, fabulous job, everyone. You've really powered through on this search. I mean, we started it many months ago, and now we're starting contract negotiations. You're in the home stretch. So just wonderful job. And I know it's late and you're probably very exhausted, but you can go to bed feeling very accomplished. Lori?
Yes, Tom, I just have a request. Once you get the okay from the individual and it sounds good, can you let the board know in an email, or would that be okay? Or is that not good practice?
No, Tom, why don't you keep Jonathan apprised of progress,
Okay.
and then that can be communicated to the board that way.
Okay, thank you.
Correct?
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and Tom, I'll touch bases with you in the morning. I have that revised starting point draft with the TBDs highlighted, and I'll get that to you in the morning. I haven't sent it to you yet.
Steve?
And if I could just add one thing, it's important in the conversation with your candidate that they understand that this is not a job offer until finalized by the board. So they don't sign the contract. You're just talking about terms, and then you bring it to the board. And then once the board votes, then it becomes a formal offer. So just make sure the candidate understands that. We're just negotiating the contract. It's not a offer at this time until voted on by the board. So just a point that I needed to make.
Yes, thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
Tom, were you able to hear that? You kind of bounced out of the mic.
Yeah.
I froze up. I missed a lot. I think Lori was asking about, she wants to be communicated with how things are going, and I'll visit with Sarah and make sure I'm following the proper protocols to keep you guys informed. Does that seem like?
And Tom, one thing that I just quickly added was when you're talking with the candidate, they need to understand it's not a job offer until voted on by the board. You're
Yep.
just talking contract terms on behalf of the board, but they should not construe it as a job offer until the board acts.
Got it. Yes.
Okay, good, thanks.
Okay. Perfect. Okay.
Okay. And
Okay.
he just, oh, there he is. Yeah. Tom, I'll get you that draft first thing in the morning, the one that we're going to start. It's basically the blank version with TBDs and color highlighting of the things that will need to be filled in.
Okay. All right. And Sarah, can you send me, is there a best phone number to call
Oh,
you?
yeah.
Just send
me?
it to me. Then if I have questions, I can hit you real
Certainly,
quick.
yeah. I'll email you my contact information.
Okay.
And you will still have access to Revelis, which has all the contact information for all of our candidates. And it looks like we lost Janet at some point. So just a FYI for everyone, but I think we're still good to move forward.
Sarah,
Yes.
would you also send Tom my cell phone number?
Sure.
I know you might be involved in the morning with your family and your little one. And so, Tom, feel free to call me and I'll help you out as well, because I know there's a sense of urgency with what you're doing.
Yes. Perfect.
Thank you, Steve.
Sarah,
Thanks,
can I ask about our materials? I don't think we're at the point where we're ready to turn them in yet, but I know we do need to turn them in at some point. Is that right?
Yes, and under non-pandemic times, I would be collecting your materials right now. Since I cannot, I just ask that you please keep them safe, and I will be in touch as soon as I can regarding how to turn those over.
And we need to make sure that we did a lot of things by computer that we wouldn't normally do. And so that's something to keep in consideration as well. I'm assuming that we want to make sure that there's nothing on our computers.
Absolutely. If you made any notes electronically, that should be printed and put with your paperwork. And then yes, please
Delete
delete
it.
it off of your devices. Everything in regards to this search will need to be kept and archived for a minimum of 3 years. And most likely what I'm going to do is coordinate with Debbie to have you submit all of this stuff to her at the district office, and it'll be boxed up and sealed. So I'll be in touch about how to coordinate that. But any note you took, anything regarding a candidate in this process will need to be, put together and archived. Okay. Any other questions? All right.
Nope. All right.
Thanks, everybody.
did
Without
so
any further
great.
business, we're going to consider the meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Good night,
All right.
everyone.
Good
Thank
night.
you.